is a collaborative working together. We'll be passing this information through a leadership council that has a further set of community stakeholders and a diverse group of members that will be further taking an extra filter at this so that we have that continued community input, feedback, and constant ongoing review. I see Mari Tessa on the call. If you wouldn't mind a moment, just taking a quick slide to speak about Valley Vision. They are our fiscal conveners for California Jobs First. They're helping to use that funding to coordinate the We Prosper Together initiative moving forward. And if you wouldn't mind just saying a few minutes, quick call, I will sneak a drink of water while you speak.
Thank you so much, Derek. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maritessa Bravo Ares, and I am part of the project team working on the We Prosper Together initiative for our 8-county region. Valley Vision is an almost 30-year-old civic nonprofit organization based in Sacramento. We work in a number of impact areas, including inclusive economic development. And as part of our role with this initiative, we serve as the backbone organization, meaning we get to work with really amazing partners, including Derek, to help carry out this project moving forward and help our region develop an inclusive economic development roadmap and really surface really great ideas for projects for our region. I will say that this has been a really impactful experience for me, getting to meet community members, learning about your ideas for how you would like to see economic development, how we think about economic development differently in our subregions. I also want to include my email address in the chat box in case you all have any questions for me. But I'm really terrific. I'm really happy that we have terrific partners, including Derek, who are leading the work in your particular subregion.
Thank you so much for that, Maritessa, and thank you very much for everybody for introducing yourselves in the chat box and sharing emails as well. I appreciate it. I had a chance to review. And an extra thank you to Valley Vision as well. I pulled up here, this is a list of kind of a lot of the funded partners, and it's just a small snapshot of the amazing team that they have helped put together to help align our region and these initiatives moving forward. I would encourage everybody to take a quick scan of this graphic because there's a very good chance that many of you already have other intersections or potential areas of synergy with many of these groups that we could help work on our regional alignment or potential projects or coordination moving forward. And I'd be happy to help further any connections in any way that I can in doing this. As Maritessa mentioned, we have, and one of the most exciting things about me, because it's kind of signifying this community working together for long-term goals and almost a small shift away from what I've seen at our previous meetings of what exactly are the project criteria because we're funding a project, and this is how we utilize all of our collective efforts in between. And a lot of times the previous project-based models had left our methods that were for planning these projects, coordinating them long-term, and keeping the resiliency and prosperity that we've spoke of. A lot of times those were missed in trying to get it fitting specifically to a project function. I really like how the We Prosper Together initiative is looking at a long-term time frame, almost more of a decade-long time frame, and how they're going to coordinate funding streams to help us make sure that we can pick a guiding nice North Star as a region to work towards and work backwards from having achieved those community goals with a coordinated initiative, regardless of variable funding streams through government organizations or other entities. A quick look at some of the key goals for We Prosper Together, because I think they align really well with a lot of our community goals that we've been talking of, as well as the Prosperity Playbook, was creating a collaborative like we've talked of and like we're a part of. Maritessa mentioned co-designing a regional roadmap. That's something we're actively working on. And the goals are to attract further investments to our region. We saw the map of the capital region there, so attract larger investments to our region as a whole. And we've seen with the increase of transportation, work from home options, remote work, we really need to create accessible living wage jobs for the region, and it will benefit all of us collectively. So these goals are for long-term planning. The California Jobs First is a financial vehicle to help us kickstart that. And the We Prosper Together is a community-led initiative to keep this going long-term and to keep that long-term support that will alleviate some of those potential roadblocks we've been hitting in the past and make us more resilient moving forward. And you'll see state number 4 is kind of that ongoing theme of creating those accessible living wage jobs, which might help us all reminisce back to the California Jobs First moniker. So how are we going to achieve this? We are currently in the planning phase, as you can see with the star there. This is why we are seeking a lot of input from our community, and why in turn, previously we haven't had a lot of super concrete data or answers to very specific project-based questions because we are still in this planning phase. We have already done the economic development pilot phase. The project picked was the Alchemist project. It was a food market in Sacramento that I'd be happy to send info on to anybody else if needed in the future. Moving into this planning phase, here's a list of the activities. This phase will be wrapping up this summer, and the next phase will be the implementation phase. While we are actively here today planning and aiding in that regional plan, I think we'll give a quick minute here to review this timeline of the work we've done in the past and kind of where we're going in the future. We can see the Leadership Council has already been seated. We're continuing community engagement here as we sit. We're working on the strategy development to submit to the state level, and hopefully in the end, we'll have a nice completed economic roadmap. The way we're going to achieve this is obviously always comes back to how is this funded as well. So here's a quick regional overview of our funding streams. I'd like to also mention the tribal funding opportunity is still ongoing, and that's at a state level. We've had recent nice coordination with the tribe as well. So thank you, Bernadette, for being on the call and representing as well. We have a community ambassador application in place, and we're excited to hopefully have more representation and voice from that community and have it be funded through Valley Vision as well to help us work on these collective efforts and make sure that their nation is represented equally. Here's the timelines for those funding streams. As we can see, we're going through the planning phase currently. We have been making progress on getting Catalyst funds and tribal funding here, and we have ongoing funding timeline streams into next year shown as well here. What a lot of us will be speaking, oh, and I'll pause there for a moment to answer any questions. Frank, can I answer a question for you? Sorry, I only got so many boxes on here.
Sometimes you get moved up when you raise your hand. Can you go back one slide? I just have a quick question. Make sure I understand the funding correctly, as it gets clearer and clearer each time we meet. One more, please. So the 268, is that for the entire region, and then the 14 million is for each sub-region, or am I reading that incorrectly?
The 268, I believe, is for this phase on the state region. That will be separated into the different regions for our state. So we will have a portion of that for the capital region. The Catalyst funding is in addition to that, is something separate, I believe. And if anybody else on the call wants to correct me if I said that wrong, please feel free to.
I'm happy to add some additional context. So the implementation funding, that $268 million is at the statewide level. And then for the Catalyst program, each region, there are 13 total regions in the state of California, will get up to $14 million. And for the Catalyst, it's for pre-development activities. So for exploratory or last mile projects. For the implementation phase, again, that's at the state level, that's for ready to go projects. And I'm happy to announce, if it's okay, Derek, that our region received the Catalyst Award funding. So we received $14 million, of which $9 million will be towards pre-development activities. So this was just announced by the state last week, and we were given permission to share this amazing news yesterday.
Thank you very much for that, Martessa. I appreciate your insight on that one. It's been nice as the project has realized they have a lot of these different funding streams for projects at different stages, which is something I found very exciting because not everybody's at the same stage as the way these projects have came historically. And some people just need the funding to start planning for the projects. And I think it's very exciting for a region to be able to recognize that. And in order to get the communities we're talking about at the table, there needs to be funding just to get to the table. And it's really nice with the work that Valley Vision and the team has been doing, help us provide opportunities to make sure we have not only voices, but funding to go behind that instead of just having it go with great ideas. So excited about those extra funding streams there, the opportunities moving forward, and hoping that the coordination of these funding streams is something that keeps being beneficial for the We Prosper Together initiative and helps us stack together different funding pools so that maybe even projects who aren't perfect for this phase will have other phases that don't fit into one certain type of silo in the past will be able to fit into others. We'll fast forward to these. One quick look at this one if nobody had any other questions. And kind of just to recap really fast back on the core objectives. I think whatever the project sectors we talk about are picked by the state or whatever ones we might have that we want to get advanced that just are there. I think it's important that for them to have the best chance of funding that they remain true to these core objectives. And I think something that I've learned from hearing more on the state level from this is that all of our regions have different intricacies and different uniqueness, but we've all had great work in the past. But to make this work more impactful going forward, it's going to need to include a lot of these community development factors that include things on how people get time back in their day and what in their specific communities they need that maybe aren't necessarily reflective of typical project criteria. So making sure the project is equitable, that it's accessible to people that maybe don't have a certain level of education or haven't had XYZ in the past that has a certain certification or moniker to it, that it's sustainable and going to make our area better in the long term, that it's not going to have any sort of long-term impacts we're missing. And a key point for me here, and kind of whenever I review this information, I think number 4 is important when we talk about sectors. And just kind of remember that the state's definition of economic competitiveness and resilience will be reflected later in the sectors that they hand down to us and that the data that it shows. And that for a project to be truly, I think, successful, in my opinion, I think that economic competitiveness and resilience helps us to align these sectors and the data that we have, because that data helps put a voice to our actions and to a lot of communities that previously haven't had a voice. With these objectives, I want to make sure that we take time to coordinate them with the Prosperity Playbook because of the work we've done in our community from that, because it's our residents' voice, and because we have put that time in there to identify needs specific for our subregion with a unique geography, with a giant natural body of water that we all share and a shared transportation system. I think it's important that our project will have a positive impact on Tahoe as well, and that's supported by the community data. We've already taken the first steps with the playbook to do this, and it's just important to show that living wage jobs, a balanced economy, not that tourism isn't one of our most important economic drivers, if not the most important economic driver, but that's something that's poised to grow naturally through time as a non-tradable sector with our population growth, and that we need to keep a balanced, thriving economy through making sure that that works with our other industries so we're growing in tandem. And then realistically, making sure that there's community services that can work for everybody so that the wonderful work we have done through our community organizations is accessible and achievable for all. I'm going to switch to the next slide, which gives us kind of a lot of text in data. But those are some of the opportunities identified from the states and reduced into 4 sectors. I'll kind of give a brief overview of them while we dive in, and I'm not sure if that's going to be legible, but I'm happy to show this to anybody after. They're described right now as ag and food tech, and I like to include biomedical innovation here. To me, this aligns a lot with our environmental innovation sector of the Prosperity Playbook. It really focuses on having our high education background in our nice community college university. Regardless of the agriculture terms in there, I think it really focuses a lot on the data from the state that we have a lot of good manufacturing of bioscience materials, seeds, agricultures, fertilizers, innovative fire hardening processes, different chemicals that work as retardation for flames, just lots of different technologies with coordination through our universities that we can leverage. And instead of trading these sectors early or trading them through different universities to be developed, we can maybe develop them in area. So I think that sector is innovative of that. We have our working land sector, which I think we have a lot of great projects, and I'd love to talk to somebody from LTCC in just a minute about. Precision manufacturing, I think, is a highlight of our region, that whatever this innovation sector is, whatever our environmental innovation is, we need to keep this talent in the region, train our employees with this wonderful education base we have through our local universities, community colleges, and accessibility, and make sure that we are manufacturing a lot more projects and ideas in our area before trading those sectors away to different areas or selling a final good. And I think in order to keep those businesses going, Kathy, I got you there. In order to keep those businesses going, we're going to need advanced businesses in manufacturing to do the logistics, HR, and tourism. Any questions on the moment, Kathy?
What do you mean by local universities? Who are the
I'm
local?
talking on a region here. So UC Davis comes up a lot
Okay.
in our
Okay.
peer-reviewed articles for the regional thing. So that's specifically what I'm referring
Okay.
to for the most part when we're talking about peer-reviewed articles in tech. We would love to see them further their training or further their input in the region instead of maybe using those patented or peer-reviewed technologies going to a business somewhere else. Any other quick questions? So yeah, going to the further review, I think a lot of these sectors give us a nice opportunity. Although I think they're not the ones that we typically see for our subregion, we have an opportunity to grow our typical areas for our subregion by incorporating regional development in this and cooperating with some of our partners, as well as accentuating some of the areas we're great at and that we have a lot of unique factors in, whether it's geographically, whether it's through our bodies of fresh water, whether it's through the mountains. I think we have a lot of areas for coordination once we have time to process these, because I know there's a lot of data here. And I know, at least for me personally, when I see ag and food tech, I'm thinking different things than I am, sciences. Heidi?
Derek, based on my conversation with Steve Frisch this morning at Sierra Business Council and working in alignment with the Eastern Sierra region project and their efforts, and then our efforts off the hill with Sierra Business Council in Placer and El Dorado County, it seems as though we have an opportunity to potentially push back on some of these identified opportunities that the state is sharing. Maybe Maritessa, this is a question for you, but are these the final 4 buckets? Do we have the opportunity to adjust to potentially elevate things that relate more to our Envision Tahoe Prosperity Playbook for our region, that rather than try and find the little nugget in each of these that may or may not necessarily fit with our region? Or is that door closed?
So thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on this. I just want to clarify a few things. First, these 4 clusters, these were the 4 clusters that were identified by our lead research partner, Cities GPS. Cities GPS is a Brookings affiliated research team. So through their research, they've identified these 4 clusters, and these are 4 tradable clusters. So these are recommended. Our region, our 8-county region, has not formally adopted them. And this is why it's a great opportunity for subregions to have this conversation, because we want to see how you all feel about these 4 clusters that were recommended. It will actually be the leadership council that will make the final determination. So, and we learned from the state that our priority clusters do not have to be all tradable. So that, I think, opens up an interesting dynamic there. So if there are other industry clusters that you feel like you like to contribute or have a strong opinion on, I think it's great to have that in this conversation. So these are not final, and this is a great opportunity to have this discussion in this meeting and in future meetings.
So Derek, that I assume then that is the plan for the next section on this agenda today. Okay, just clarifying. Thanks. That's helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much, Maritessa. I really appreciate you being here to help me clarify that. And as I coordinate my screens here, I believe Gustavo was able to send some kind of exactly what Valley Vision would love to know some more information on in some of our industry sector reflections. I would love to see or hear from anybody if they think any of these sectors do resonate or demonstrate opportunities, or which one of these maybe seem to have aligned well. Like, I know I've received some project from the working land sector. I didn't know if anybody from LTCC might want to say something about their project. I think I saw Brad on the call. Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, everybody. This is Brad. I'm the Dean of Workforce Development and Instruction here at Lake Tahoe Community College. And Derek, I think you'd spoken previously, and perhaps Heidi as well, with Laura Batum. She's our Senior Director of grant development and government relations. And, we've been investing heavily into public safety training here at the college. We've just successfully launched the forestry program that's kind of going like gangbusters, has a lot of partners. And is this okay, Derek, if I kind of right now put in our ask and kind of really what we're looking for right now? And it sounds like our project that I'm about to, basically expand upon might qualify for the implementation phase for those so-called ready to go projects. We're, in the Tahoe Basin, we're shovel ready, which means we could start work next summer, 2025. And that's basically phase one of the Tahoe Basin Public Safety Training Center. And we're in an urgent, I'm in a really critical phase. We currently have over $6 million of local funding available. And we need more funds to allow us to kind of bring this to construction. We have money from our previous bond that's sitting there, as well as other funds that we've received and raised. We also got $1.6 million from the senators, Feinstein and Padilla, to construct a permanent training tower. And those funds expire at the end of 2025. So we desperately need to find funds to basically create the tarmac around it with water retention pumps and all that kind of good stuff, because we also have an equipment storage facility that we've purchased and we need to find a home for it. We have a home for it. We have the coverage on our campus, but we really need the funding to make this happen. Plus, we have a number of other training props like ventilation prop and car fire prop and others. And basically, this facility would support, it would be really key to our investments in workforce training that leads to a lot of the objectives of the grant, which is fields that lead to a living wage. I know that Dean Bateman and I have worked over the years, always looking for those types of career and technical education programs that hopefully lead to family sustaining wages, economic growth opportunity here in the Tahoe Basin and beyond, and specifically it would support our fire, our forestry, our emergency medical services, criminal justice law enforcement, and also rescue classes. And our current capacity, just to kind of give you guys a quick update, I won't go too long on this, is really limited. Our fire academy drives to Carson City, Nevada to train. We have no place to train in the Tahoe Basin. We often have driven down to my county, which is over in Luther Pass, as a lot of you know. Our local fire agencies also have to take, if they want to do training, they have to take their engine out of service and a company out of service and go down to Carson City Training Center down there to do it. And so we're getting less, fewer trainings are happening. We've actually connected. We have letters of support from City of South Lake Tahoe Fire Rescue, Lake Valley, Cal Fire, Tahoe Douglas on the Nevada side, North Tahoe, Chief Layton as well, Chief Whistler up there in North Tahoe Fire comes down and teaches for us, NHP, CHP, and kind of on and on. And then I just wanted to kind of talk about also, it would allow us to meet our objectives of diversifying the workforce with our forestry program. Adrian Escobedo, wave to everybody. He's our Director of Forestry, Fire, Public Safety. We're in our second year of forestry right now, and we're really proud of those outcomes because that's a really non-diverse workforce traditionally, and that's why we were able to get the funds to set up and start this. And we're currently, our students are at 46% Hispanic Latinx and 32% female and female identifying students. So we feel really good about that. And we've also had kind of a long history of working with Sierra College in Nevada County on a couple things. And real quick, Adrian, you want to talk just briefly what we've done on forestry and fire with Sierra College up kind of on the North Lake and Turkey side?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Brad. So hi, everybody. Adrian Escobedo, like Brad said. And yeah, one of the things we're really trying to, drive for us is definitely the partnerships here on the basin, and even just kind of the surrounding supporters. And so at Sierra College, we've talked to Jason Hemler, who is the fire coordinator over there. And he's allowed us to, one, be able to use some of his facilities for some of our training that we've had when we get snowed in, but also to acquire permission to be able to do and take our classes into some of the prescribed fire so that they can actually experience and see live fire. And so we work with the Tahoe Truckee, well, it's the Tahoe National Forest, the Truckee Ranger District, to coordinate that for our cadets and our forestry to be able to partner with them and again be part of those fuels projects. And so, we're looking again to increase partnerships along with like Meeks Fire. Many of those folks come in and teach our classes, and then vice versa. We go and help them whenever they need teaching at Sierra College. And then many of those agencies are hiring our cadets now. So, Meeks Fire, Fallen Leaf, Tahoe Douglas, those folks are hiring our people. So go ahead, Brian.
Thanks so much. And basically, just to sum up and wrap up on this ask is, again, we're our senior director, Laura Mattoon, of Grant Development and Government Relations. She's in DC right now, asking for a federal earmark for that. We've asked the state, the governor's office, our local legislators as well. So really, we're trying to cobble together some funds. Our big ask is just under $5 million, 4.7 million, but every increment would help us get there. And then finally, we've worked a lot with Valley Vision over the years. And so it kind of aligns with a lot of the things from kind of 21st century workforce, clean economy. I just always think about forestry and some of our environmental science, environmental studies as well. Obviously, healthy communities. When our entire college district was evacuated for the Caldor fire, we graduated almost 20 cadets that year in June. And 2 months later, all 20 graduates of our fire academy were fighting the Caldor fire. So I always say, there is no healthy community if there is no community, and kind of the civic engagement piece as well that we really weave into all of our public safety training. So anyway, thanks for listening. I'm happy to answer questions here or offline. And we really appreciate the support that we've had from Tahoe Prosperity Center to all of our partners around Lake, and a lot of you are those. So anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for your concern.
Thank you very much, Brad and Adrian. I really appreciate it. I always love the example of that project because one, I feel like it shows Valley Vision's willingness to change some of those traditional sectors from something like agriculture into a definition of working lands. And I always appreciate the Sierra Business Council's help with making some of those changes and suggestions as well. And they're working with the Eastern Sierra region and all of our Sierra regions as a whole. I also really love how that project has the diversity aspect as well and goes back to those 4 core values we spoke of. Not only does it have an economic benefit, but it has the diversity value, it has funds to go with it, and it has that ready to go. And I think it will be a good time for me to kind of skip to my next slide here if I didn't change my windows too much on myself. Give me one quick moment here. So I go into more of the implementation and kind of what is a shovel-ready project, what is ready to go. Okay, this will work. So kind of just some more information on different projects now that we have a tangible example with a public safety project. Does anybody have any questions at the moment after we went through that, just to check in?
Yeah, can you just share the timing of when the funds through the California Jobs First implementation program might be available to see if it actually does align with LTCC's timing?
I believe September is when the decisions were going to be made, if I correct. And Maritas, I'm not sure if that is changed at all.
If we go back to thank you for pulling up the funding streams timeline. So the state will be releasing the implementation SFP in September of this year.
So we'd love to hear more of the projects, coming at, in beginning of May 1st, I believe was the deadline to try to get some of these projects in, because we're still gonna need to coordinate them regionally. And I saw Gil on the call earlier. I didn't know if Gil, what would you think? Gil's our regional partner or sub-regional partner here with the Nevada County Economic Resource Council. I didn't know what you thought about maybe a project like that in the working land sector for alignment with your area.
We would love to partner with you on that project. We have the big fire base here at our airport, and we have the same kinds of needs. And I think it would be beneficial if we did both sides of the mountain training.
That sounds like something that would definitely kind of appeal to that regional structure. And I'd love to even coordinate it further with the SBC or Steve, as Heidi, you mentioned earlier, as some way that we can have that be a training program. And not only did they have the workers going to work right away, but they also have areas for them to train through universities and create a lot more jobs. So programs like that in this collaboration, please let me know how I can assist, what ideas have come up. And then just to go back to kind of some further definitions of what we were using for these projects. Where was it? Oh, we went through thoughts and input. Feel free to give any more. So we'll need these stages to make them deliverable, and that kind of helped us decide what phase are they at. This ready to go project, is it implementation phase? And happy to share these details with anybody because I know there's a lot there. But community partnerships, as we see, will be pivotal to making this successful, as well as showing the amount of jobs that are created and making sure that it's in the communities and the target communities we're looking for, and that it will have impact not only in those target communities, but also economically for the region. Project deemed ready to go we'll need the items and the bullet points listed here. But it kind of gives us what our definition and kind of putting terms on what a ready to go project is. So they'll need to make sure that, and there's a whole list I've seen from the state that has the exact forms and numbers of, necessary plans or studies, but those are all things we'll work together as a region and work with Valley Vision to make sure that we have those coordinated and can help and assist with. Additional funding sources are always a bonus to make sure that the project is extra impactful, and already many projects with additional funding sources will already have plans and studies to this effect. Proof of the site control, preliminary permitting and approvals, making sure that anything approved isn't going to get kicked out in 5 years due to not having Forest Service permits or something else similar or related. And then just making sure that we go back through with the interagency team, and there'll be some additional criteria that's a constant moving as we are in the planning phase. Many of these things are small shifting targets, but I think the exciting part about having ready to go project with these deadlines and this information here is that projects that work towards this and maybe doesn't hit the timeline, we have multiple funding streams over one very long timeline where we're trying to achieve a very similar goal in the end. So as a region, we have a shared goal. We're working on finding ways to share and pool this funding over the long term to make sure that we can be resilient in our efforts to make a resilient economy in the end. Last mile projects, we have some further definitions here. If, projects like we spoke of have a feasibility study completed, they're done and don't need anything specific, but are waiting for one or two things. Those are last mile projects where it's just kind of sitting there stalling. And even as Heidi mentioned, what's the timeline on this to get this done before we lose federal funding? It's always, I feel like for many of us, you put so much work into securing the funding, and then if you lose it over missing a small portion, that's really a missed opportunity for the region. And I feel like it sometimes stings a little extra. So I really appreciate the ability to build in these different types of funding. And although it's complicated and although there's many definitions, it's nice to have last mile projects, ready to go projects, and as we see it here also, exploratory projects. Because we have a whole different breadth of people, even in this small room here today, with projects at different stages, but of equal importance. And we have projects that are ready to go, like the one we already spoke of. And we have people that need to get projects to the table, need to find ways to get this funded, and just need to have the voice. And I think that's something we really need to illustrate here as we have them both there. Do we have any questions, Amy?
I go off mute. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having us here. I may be giving ahead. This may be in a future slide, but when you're talking about those exploratory projects, are you providing the link then for other agencies to submit those? Just because we didn't have the opportunity to hear all of those here today.
There is a link on the We Prosper Together website that has a project readiness. I would be happy to, probably will miss putting that in the chat and mess up this whole window if I try to right now, but I will definitely send it to you later.
Or maybe in an email afterwards or something.
Yeah, and on this very next slide, actually,
there it is.
We have contact info for We Prosper Together, and their website has all this info great on there. There's a wonderful pool of resources in multiple languages. I really appreciate having a lot of those languages on there to build some of my wording on as well. And they've really done a great job of not only helping me with this slideshow and branding and keeping regional things coordinated, but having answers to a lot of these questions, changing as we need as a group, and doing a really great job listening to our feedback. So I guess I just want to take this time to just check back in with everybody and ask if anybody had any other questions going on, any certain feedback or any thoughts on these sectors before I shared any other further details. One quick last look here.
Just two comments, Derek. One, we're gonna send the slides out to everybody. I'm gonna edit just this one, just so that when we send it out, you guys will have them per, you know, it'll just be a little easier to read. So we'll get those all out to you tomorrow for sure. And then, Derek, could you spend a couple of minutes talking about the underrepresented community outreach that we're trying to do, and maybe solicit some feedback from the group on how they might be able to help us with that?
Yeah, I would love feedback, assistance. I will always take help with this. I know our next community meeting will be on the 27th. We're doing that at the Family Resource Center. And we're hoping to have a majority, if not all of it, be available in Spanish and not maybe either presented or translated. So I would love anybody that would help me do that. I have made flyers and bilingual flyers. We've had an area where they're typically meeting to do this, and I've coordinated with individuals there to have a time at the meeting to host and hear feedback on what our Spanish-speaking community thinks about these similar initiatives, how it aligns with their community, and how the core values even line up, if we're doing things right, if we've listened enough, if we've changed enough, and what other work we have to do, what projects could be helpful. So if anybody has any experience or would want to help me present some of these viewpoints, my end goal is there's a nice program that I actually saw from the state that allows you to give a slideshow presentation, but receive feedback via cell phone text in. So you can go through a survey and hear these polls through, and without having to download an application, there's ways to get community survey. So I'd love for somebody to help me facilitate possibly giving that survey a little bit in person along with some of the information here. And I'm also looking into hopefully finding different translation materials available. That is again on March 27th at the Family Resource Center from 5:30 to between 5:30 and 7:30, I believe.
5:30 and 6:30.
5:30, 6:30. Thank you. Appreciate that,
Thanks,
Karen, very much
Karen.
for helping me set it up. I have a lot of box going. I didn't see you on the call here already. Well, thank you very much for helping me set that up. I appreciate it. I do have a flyer coming to you as well. And thank you, Sarah, on the call for helping me go through my wording on that, because I know enough Spanish to know that I didn't do it right, but I didn't know enough to say it correctly. So much appreciated. And again, it's a moving target and work for us all to make sure that we're listening where possible and putting a voice to the other communities where we're able to. And I can always do a better job of it. So anybody who has any suggestions, any resources I could do, I'd love to hear about maybe somewhere that I'm missing, somewhere that I could further engage, or somewhere I could do a better job. Feel free to say it now, send it in the chat, or shoot me an email on the side. Amy?
Great job. I just want to thank you for putting this together and putting together the workshop on the 27th. I know it's very complex and challenging work sometimes, especially as we wait for directives for the state. I'm very empathetic to that from our work here in Western Slope as well. So thank you for doing this. Happy to be here. Really happy to see how Karen helps support that also with the Family Resource Center and your event on the 27th.
Thank you, Amy. Frank?
Yeah, I was just going to say, if there's anything, even just the slides and survey piece that we can share with the college's ESL classes. So, for example, there'll be 65 students here instead of at the FRC that evening, because they're in the ESL class from 6 o'clock until 9. So we're happy to push that information through those classes here on campus, and Karen, certainly in the morning class at FRC as well.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for that, Frank. I really appreciate it. How about you, Karen?
I'll just share that ahead of this meeting and in some other similar previous meetings, we've been getting some more general feedback just on equitable and sustainable jobs. And so something that really I've found supports engagement at the Family Resource Center is some specific tailored questions about what type of input you might like, very concrete. And then also I'll be prepared to share some of the input we've gotten. And again, it is less specific to the projects as you were presenting and more specific to just some general needs and wants to be built into any project. And I'm eager to share that with you and to have you here in person, some input.
Thank you so much for that, Karen. I'm really eager to listen to those and make sure that, although they definitely need to have nothing to do with projects, it's nice for us to be able to incorporate those in our projects because it makes them more impactful and makes it work. And if we can start there and use the We Prosper Together initiative to continue this type of work and make it just raise the awareness that there is federal money that comes from the government and is given to people to do things they want, sometimes is just a crazy concept, to think of in different communities and cultures. Knowing that's there and helping it build for the future, not only immediately, but long term, is something I'm definitely excited about. And I really appreciate your help with that. And I guess another thing I would say about the sectors and the jobs is just Cities GPS has done a great job. And I have this very wordy slide up here now, braced into 4. But there is a nice graphic that I can share in the coming weeks. And I believe Valley Vision, I've had messages they'll be finished in the next weeks, that has every single code on it and a nice pie chart, sortable, changeable. We can kind of dive on what sectors are tradable, tradable meaning that we're producing something here and selling it elsewhere to bring money into the community, or not tradable. And I'm excited to share those resources as well when they finalize them up. Frank?
Yeah, just one last thought on this. And Heidi, I think you were in the audience for the Zoom presentation of the California Tahoe Conservancy's community-based research around underserved populations and access to recreation. Some of those white papers, some of those reports, and some of those slides might have value to Derek and others doing this work as well. I don't know where the Conservancy is on releasing those, but I'm hoping they're close.
Good point, Frank. Thank you very much for sharing that. And is there anybody else I missed? Just to give a quick moment here for any other voices or thoughts that maybe I will have missed or excluded in the current time. Okay, well, I really appreciate everybody's input. Thank you so much. Let me get to my last slide here. Here's my info, just in case anybody doesn't have it. Any coordinations or thoughts, I'm looking forward to sharing it. Feel free to look back through the slides. Please look at the funded partners slides for any ideas that might jog of people that we're already working together with. Thank you again to everybody who made it and participate on the call, especially Bernadette. I know this is a new function for you and a lot of information to take in, so I'm really excited about having a possible community tribal ambassador there. Gil, Brad, Karen, Amy, Adrian, really appreciate your input on the calls. Frank as well. Heidi, thank you so much. If there's anything else, please feel free to email me or reach off offline. And I look forward to coordinating more in the future. And I look forward to our meeting upcoming on the 27th. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.